made. They had to fight outside the base, and they couldn't proceed onwards from there. Win conditions were not set clearly for the side team Sri Lanka. Hopefully, they can make the adjustment now. For the first time ever today, we're going to have dangerous grass.
So, dangerous grass, huh? Okay, so nothing too out of the ordinary. I'll say that this is not going to change too much either. So going in between these two teams, we are starting out the draft immediately with Akai already slapped into the banning pool immediately. Something that we should expect to go into the banning pool should be Freya, probably Jusin, Paquito, Marcel, all that jazz.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, when we talk about the other groups, right? This is a ban and pick that always slips through for other groups. I'm not too sure whether they have that player that can do it, but the Fanny itself, we have not been seeing much of a priority here for any of these teams. And is just Fanny not in the meta anymore? But no, we did see that ban out from Team Philippines and Team Indonesia yesterday.
I do think that Fanny is a little bit too high mechanic for maybe either of these teams, which are still in their infancy stage within of their region, to pick up the Fanny and go completely ham with it, especially with being in the 2026 Asian Games. 2026 Asian Games. So they gotta have to play something more, I would say, easier to pilot, something that is a lot more straightforward in order for them to, have a more proper idea of what the game plan is.
And now for the side of Team Sri Lanka, a respect ban on the side of the Harif as well. Generally not being seen in the top 3. Now they do eventually ban it out. This leaves Marcel and also the Paquito in that pool, right? For Team Hong Kong China, if they wish to take one of them out, that's a possibility. If you think about strong openers, that Freya, that Phovius is still there as well.
Honestly, the banning pool is actually going down pretty darn slow, as both teams, they are really looking into it very, very carefully. Guinevere is already taken out. Due to the fact that the previous game, no one played the Paquito, no one banned the Paquito, might just mean that, we might not need to care about Paquito in this entire game at all.
Yeah, probably. That's going to be the case here. Now, opening for the side of Team Hong Kong China. Paquito still there, but they go for the carry opener. And yeah, carry as an opener, I can see where it's good, but it's not good enough to warrant that first pick, right? You essentially reveal your play style as you're gonna play to protect the carry. And once again, carry has the same problem as Moscow, where the range is short. So meanwhile, for the side team Sri Lanka, if they want to lean into this, where we see the Granger coming in, right? You play with that range, you play that Rhapsody, you can play also that Bruno to try and get that bullying along that way.
So with carry from the side of Hong Kong China and now Team Sri Lanka, they have decided to pick up a Yisun Shin for themselves. So literally ripping a page out of Team Hong Kong China's.
Okay, I give up on this draft officially because we see Min Sitar and Yi Son Shin coming out for the second pick. Doesn't make sense at all, right? They're not responding to each other. They don't have a play style. They're just going with whatever they feel like. And yeah, for Min Sitar, I mean, at this point, at this juncture of the game, you're revealing so much by going into that Min Sitar. It's not like your opponent is gonna pick Min Sitar right now, right? You could have picked up the Sin, you could have picked up the Yve. There is so much priority in that pool for that good mid laner to come through. And yeah, picking up that Min Sitar right now just reveals your hand just very early.
Uranus gonna be picked up from the side of Team Hong Kong China and followed up by a Hilda. So honestly, I don't quite understand what they're trying to do here. So they do have Hilda that is really strong in the early stages of the game. In the meantime, the Min Sitar comes out from the side of Team Sri Lanka. That is an R1 pick. You can kind of shift that over to R5 and it would be perfect because, you'll be able to bait out more of these, blink style heroes so that your ultimate will be a lot more useful.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, right? At this point, it's like, dangerous grass, maybe Hilda, maybe that's what they're going for. I would think that, but yeah, they ban out the Gourd coming in from the side of Team Sri Lanka and for the side of Team Hong Kong China as well, right? In terms of that pool priority, where that meta is extremely strong towards that Paquito, towards the Phobius as well on the EXP lane, picking up the Uranus and also the Hilda. Oh my god, they better have a good game plan here, because this is going to be a very interesting game, completely off from the current meta that we've seen. Guys, don't try this at home, and Team Hong Kong China and Team Sri Lanka, they're doing it for you so that you don't have to do it yourselves.
So we've got then Hylos, Atlas taken away, while the God as well as the Juicin is taken away from the side of Team Sri Lanka. Now, our 4 pick. At this point, we don't have very strong front liners from the side of Team Sri Lanka. I'm still really positive about Minstar, gonna be real honest. Valir is, of course, a pretty good answer if you want to deal with, you know, fast-moving heroes, single point dashes that, you know, get close to you. But honestly, for Hilda as well as Uranus, they don't really quite care about the fact that you kind of throw them away, because they can just kind of walk back to you.
Yeah, so this is very confusing to me. I've tried to make sense of the draft, but at this point, right, we are gonna have to admit that this draft is not gonna make sense. So yeah, now going for the glue. Okay, good against the Hilda, good against the Uranus. Okay, finally something that makes sense from the side of Team Sri Lanka. Now from the team side of Team Hong Kong China, they go for the Vexana. Okay, something that I haven't seen in a very long time. Yeah, I mean, the Eve is still in the pool. Gord and the Juicin, of course, banned out, but yeah, I don't see why the Vexana is being played here. Against the glue, yes, okay, strong. But is it strong enough?
Your team is picking.
I think it's good enough to just completely destroy the glue. We'll see. Need some items, and the glue will possibly not be able to see another day. But right now, Team Hong Kong China, in the early stages of the game, they've got pretty good damage coming from Hilda, from Vexana, as well as Suyo. Now, the Ixia.
Okay, range, yeah, okay, I get it, full barrage. But after the full barrage...
I mean, no one can technically dive. No, no, the Hilda can just run.
Yeah, Hilda can just run. There's also the Vexana's...
Eternal Guard.
The grasp, the nether grasp that you need to worry about as well. So there's a lot of disruption factor there, and also at the same time, I can see what they're going for, right? King's Calling, full barrage, very good combination with the glue trying to force the members back in again and again into the full barrage. But that's so reliant on the full barrage. Once the full barrage is down, where else is the damage coming for? It has to be from Kavindu.
So Kavindu, he needs to farm like crazy in the early stages of the game. Technically, the pokes can come from the Valir, and those pokes from Valir are gonna be, you know, very invisible impact. You don't realize that you're actually taking a lot of damage out of the Valir, but the moment that he gets a glowing wand for himself, oh boy, you really need to look out for him.
Yeah, here we go. Team Hong Kong China versus Team Sri Lanka. This is game number 2. Team Hong Kong China currently up 1-0 at the moment so far. Now, KK-chan actually taking a lot of early game damage here after Hilda will be able to jump back into the bush, try and get some healing factor back into his way.
No, but the different thing is that the Hilda actually don't care at the fact that his HP is low. Just kind of weaving himself in and out of these brushes is more than gonna be enough for him to get himself back on track.
Yeah, definitely. Early game Hilda, very hard to deal with. Indeed, Kavindu has to watch out from the rotation coming out. CJ Wong and Hilda, Mr. KK-chan, they're looking to try and invade as much as possible. We do see the defense coming through, but it's not going to be enough when the Uranus joins the fray as well.
So at this point, we're still in the early matchups. Team Sri Lanka, they're trying to kind of have a feel of how the game is going to look like and how the game is going to be like as well. We do have KK-chan that has made all the way up to the top lane. Unfortunately, doesn't have got a glorious pathway that allows her to just, you know, run super fast right in the face of Ixia. No, unfortunately. She does have her own speed boost though, but I don't think it would be enough to help them secure such an early kill.
Yeah, 2 minutes into the game. Still, both teams still posturing for position here. Now we do see an early advantage coming in for the side of Praveen as he gets taken out. KY Zung still on the task with that carry, eventually traded out 1-for-1. First blood going the way of Team Hong Kong China. But this eyes should be on the turtle right now as both roams, they are trying to make their way back to the turtle, where CJ Wong will be starting already here. And now with the flicker, it's not going to be enough with the King's Calling, and that's the thing. King's Calling wasted. What you going to do now? And yeah, you picked the Mincetar. First pick.
To be honest, right now, I do want to see that the Mincetar will be able to do good work against some of these, you know, very blink style heroes such as KY Zheng, but in the early stages, that Mincetar is just not gonna do anything at all. While in the meantime, we just finally see that the Valier hits level 4, but right now, all the way up the top lane, Hassan.
Yeah, in a bit of trouble, but definitely will be able to get out. He does have the flicker available. Team Sri Lanka does have no flicker usage left for that next 2 minutes, and that means that Team Hong Kong China, they can't ramp things up. And KK-chan having that flicker as well, right? Ability to chase, it's going to be there. And not having the ultimates available, I believe at this stage, even the full barrage would not be a good answer to anything that Team Hong Kong China are going to throw at Team Sri Lanka's way. Now Hashan in a lot of trouble, and we see the flicker usage.
Yep, that is goodbye to Hashan, as the Team Hong Kong China has finally managed to get themselves the 3rd kill of the game. Although we are only 3 minutes into this game, and MY Cheng is already proxying the waves, which is great because this is the kind of lineup coming in from the side of Team Sri Lanka that doesn't necessarily have got a very good control of their own jungle, and they're just not particularly fast enough to catch up to MY Cheng's proxy results.
Yeah, I mean, both sides, I would say, Team Sri Lanka now in trouble, right? You picked up the Ixia for yourself, and the thing is, Ixia does not have very good survivability. If you get dove under the turret and you have no teammates, there's no way you're getting out.
As HKG now walks himself right into the midst of team fight.
Yeah, now with the King's Calling, and surprisingly, HL Law is going to be the target of choice here. He was just collateral damage. The hook wasn't even in his direction. He just walked into it, and sadly into that King's Calling. And now for the side of Team Sri Lanka, they get a lucky kill going for themselves right now. Now they have the ability to fight for this turtle, but HL Law already back on the scene. We'll have that Eternal Guard up very soon.
Just take a little bit more time before we'll be able to see possibly a big fight, because now we are only at 4 minutes into the game. CJ Wang is already tackling down over to the turtle. In terms of retribution, quality doesn't really matter because Kavindu has long forgotten about the fact that they need to go for this turtle. Went for the retribution already onto the orange buff and will be on his merry way.
Yeah, definitely very quirky playstyle coming out from the side of Team Sri Lanka here. And now with that, Hashan being the only source of initiation, I would say. King's Calling not exactly reliable. That stick much more reliable as the source of initiation. Team Sri Lanka, they only have one avenue of entry, and full barrage right now until level 5 still not being able to be popped at this point. Now for Team Hong Kong China, it's all about that mid lane turret control, right? If you can get that mid lane turret control, you open up so much of the map, and now Hashan once again in trouble. This is not what you want out of your Gloom, your only frontliner that you potentially have for the rest of the game.
At this point, Team Hong Kong China, they just want to play a little bit on the slower side. They do not want to put themselves right in the face of Team Sri Lanka and just kind of force the issue at all. Waiting for the perfect opportunity, and perhaps just kind of look at, you know, the different standing objectives and different neutral objectives that is currently available. Team Hong Kong China, they're probably just gauging their way. Do they have the firepower? Do they have enough farm? And speaking of farm though, the carry is actually pretty darn farmed up. 1,500 gold on top of the Ixia. To be honest, maybe not that big of a surprise due to the fact that, you know, Hong Kong China has been putting a lot of emphasis up in the top lane, putting a lot of difficulties on the Praveen.
Yeah, now Hashan once again able to land the stick combo here, but full barrage not available. KK-chan actually in a bit of a temple here, just flickers into that bush. Now Hashan in a slight bit of trouble. KY Zheng does find the finisher. Rest of the team of Team Sri Lanka, they're coming in here, and HL Law will find himself in no man's land. Kavindu eventually popped him off just instantly, and HL Law did have that flicker available. So both teams making blunders of their own. Now Team Hong Kong China from that 3,000 lead, now still keeping it even.
Those little pokes coming from Ramanayake doesn't seem like he's doing anything at all to MY Chung. But this is what a Uranus is capable of doing, right? Being able to tank a lot, being able to heal a lot, being able to, well, technically speaking, do quite a lot. And at a certain point in time, once you kind of give it to a Uranus and you realize, you know what, we can't touch Uranus, we can't kill Uranus, his discs eventually will do a lot of damage, dude.
And now he is able to do that, especially in this turtle right here. King's Calling has been used. CJ Wong eventually gets the turtle, though. Has a superior damage to Kavindu at this point, but CJ Wong eventually gets chased down from the side of Ramanayake. But the rest of the team falling in here. Carry nowhere inside. Kavindu eventually goes down, and KK Chan not able to save his teammate MY Chung as Team Hong Kong. They get the turtle, but for 3.
That's not good. Well, even losing, a little bit of a trade here and there, it is almost a full team wipeout onto the side of Team Hong Kong China. Team Sri Lanka did a fabulous job in trying to tally things out. And now, pushing out in the middle lane, they will be able to successfully bring down the T2 turret in the middle and the bottom, which is honestly pretty darn crazy with how much has changed within 1 minute.
I mean, look at what is going on here, but look at the mini-map, right? You see KY Zung being ran at by the glue, and Hashan finally gets that solo kill onto KY Zung at this point. So there's a lot of trades going on in the map, and both teams, right? If you don't understand what you're doing, the enemy doesn't understand what you're doing too.
You gotta fool yourself first before you fool the enemies.
That's exactly what's going on. And we saw a very aggressive flicker coming out from the side of Ramanayake. It really works against CJ Wong. And gotta say, right, King's Calling, I might hate on it a lot, but it works very well against the Suyo.
Oh. Well, looks like they knew a little bit of a tactic that will work very well for them. But to be fair, I think that the King's Calling is mostly reserved for KY Jung, just so that they will be able to ensure that their glue stays alive, or maybe Ramanayake himself will stay alive too.
And now Team Sri Lanka, they look poised to fight here. Now 1,000 difference, it's still anyone's game. Eternal Guard has been dropped here. Hashen will no longer be that target that they are looking for. Hashen, he's able to survive through that first barrage of damage. Now with Eternal Guard not available, Team Hong Kong China, they have to look for another avenue of entry.
The rest of Team Sri Lanka now moving themselves backwards and do see MY Chung as well as KK Chan. However, this might not be the opportunity or the chance for them to go, oh wait, hold a second.
Yeah, Flicker being used here for the side of KK Chan. And now with the rest of the team coming through, full barrage finally being used here. They don't have any ability to stop it. KY Zung going with the side with the light wheel. Flicker's in, not unable to finish onto Praveen here now. KY Zung against the world once again, but does have the backup of CJ Wong. It is 2v5, and they managed to get 3 for themselves. Kavindu, no. Jumping in, and then we gotta pause. So I'm not too sure what's going on here.
Oh man. This is a 10 minutes game, and so much, well, scrappy fights all the way through. And this is just going to be a really powerful gameplay all the way through. And you gotta have to expect that at this point in time, we have got Hong Kong China that just did a fabulous job all the way through.
Yeah, I mean, for that comeback into that team fight, I would say that Team Hong Kong China, were 2v5, right? They were 2v5. Suyo and also KY Zung on the carry versus the world. And I was going to say, right, KY Zung, he's going to deal a lot of damage, especially if they run into him. And that's exactly what happened. The rest of Team Sri Lanka, they were running into a carry. And that's exactly what you don't want. People run away from carry.
Honestly, as long as you have ways to kind of lock them into a fight, I think that the carry generally will be having a great time. However, right now, what we have is constantly just, a lot of back and forth. Team Hong Kong China, they were having a pretty good time, and then suddenly, now we come down to the later stages of the game. You're not being able to do too much as a team because, you're giving the opponents the power spikes that they're looking out for and the time of their life right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would say definitely a good response coming in from Team Sri Lanka, especially given the fact that they know how to use the glue right now. They're not dying to that first barrage of damage.
No way, yeah.
Yeah, but still at the same point, that carry, that Suyo, the damage is starting to come out for Kavindu. Kavindu jumping in 1v2 like that, then instantly getting popped. I'm not too sure whether that pause was part of it, but Kavindu jumping in, that was not characteristic of a good YSS player at all. And now going back into the game, looks like everything is in order. Kavindu jumping in, and that was KY Tsung, CJ Wong against the entire Team Sri Lanka. Looking at the instant replay, right?
Yep,
Look at that.
This is the one. CJ Wong, keep your eyes onto him the whole time. Literally will be able to get that kill on Nisal, just that simple. Kavindu opened up, and at the point in time, I think that he was just tunnel vision, just going straight in, and he was like, okay, you know what, now's the time, we really need to get a kill, we need to do something about this.
Yeah, I mean, he is the general after all, right? You gotta go in for the heroic move, and it didn't work out. So we got 2 heroes from the side of Team Sri Lanka, and not going to be able to get that Lord advantage. Now 4,000 going back into the side of Team Hong Kong China's favor, as we have Team Sri Lanka actually clawing their way back.
As of now, when it comes down to Hashen, he needs to be really careful about his positioning, because at this point in time, we can definitely agree that HL Raw, the Vexana, he will be quite a menace to Hashen. He can't stay in that form for extended periods of time. He really needs to, possess someone as soon as possible whenever he could. So, he can't be in the front lines as too long, because this is actually the one of the only front liners that we have to remember about.
Yeah, and in terms of creep clear, right, they are very reliant on that full barrage, as we said before. Kavindu, he's not going to be able to get that space into that creep wave at all. And also for Nisal, right, you want to use your spells for your heroes as much as possible, not on the creeps. And sadly, for Team Sri Lanka, it looks like they need to be playing on that back foot.
However, for Team Sri Lanka to play on the back foot, they won't play like this for an extended period of time. We do have to remember that Team Sri Lanka is, technically speaking, a double marksman setup. Having an Ixia that has such superior range, and the fact that Kavindu does have got very good synergy together with Ramanayake, honestly, towards the late stages of the game, if we were to see this game dragged on to past 20 minutes, this game might actually go over to the side of Sri Lanka, because at that point, let's be honest, MY Chung and KK Chan, they ultimately just becomes over-glorified sandbags.
I mean, at the same time, right, triple damage coming through from the side of Team Sri Lanka. Also, now Kavindu in a slight bit of trouble here.
No.
That damage is not going to do well when there's 2 members in Team Hong Kong China.
Yeah, that's a big mistake.
Yeah,
he shouldn't have went that far.
Yeah, that was capitalized on from the side of Team Hong Kong China instantly, right?
Yeah.
You're going for the macro play, but there's nothing going on the map for you. There's no Lord, there's no objective. And yeah, he was just on a split push.
Yeah, there's nothing to kind of like bring the opponents away from you. If you do want to go for macro play, there must be a reason for doing that. And you can ensure your own safety. Number one is also because of the fact if you have team members that is on the opposite side of the map showing themselves and be like, hey guys, we are ready to fight. In the meantime, there's another person on the opposite side of the map being you, then you are forcing the opponents to make a choice, make a decision. And in fact, sometimes a hard decision. But for that one, it was an easy decision. We just need to go down.
Yeah, we just need to go down because there's no Lord, and now the Lord is up. Now Kavindu with no buffs will have to just give up this Lord, right? Team Hong Kong China now, CJ Wong will be picking up the Lord for themselves. Now this will be spawning in at 14-15. So now for Praveen does pick up the Malefic Gun, but KY Tsung already has that Wind of Nature, so we'll have the ability to survive in either the King's Calling or also the full barrage.
At this point, back to 14 minutes into this game, it's understandable that a Valir will have the highest damage dealt, but it is not understandable for a Vexana to actually not have that big amount of damage, right? Total damage dealt is 26,000 damage. Honestly, kind of surprising to me.
I mean, I'm not surprised that the Vexana deals so much damage. Well, they've been
not enough though.
Yeah, they've been clumping up for these team fights, but at the same time, right? We talked about the triple damage setup coming in from Sri Lanka, so that's why they're on top as well. Now they're forming that tri-lane push in. Full barrage will be available as well. That stick also there. This is going to be a concerted effort coming in from the side of Team Sri Lanka as they try to hold on to the inhibitor turret on the top side. No initiation coming after out from either side so far. They both don't have tools to initiate.
This is actually really tough for Team Hong Kong China. They have a lineup that is really great for the early game, having that Hilda and all, but they have already reached the late game territory, being at 15 minutes. So the tankiness of the front lines, the fact that the squishy back lines are gonna be pretty far and out of reach for KK Chan. KK Chan has already come to the point that he is an overglorified sandbag now. But MY Chung, he can still be a pretty good sandbag, because as long as you're just kind of like going back and forth and exchanging hits between you and Hilda, then maybe you will be able to find some ways and find some avenues for the Suyo to come in to do decent amount of damage, or perhaps open enough space for KY Zheng to do some of these, damage over to the front lines. But if you're just right in front of the enemy's turret, none of these can be executed. You need to pull Sri Lanka out of their base for you to be able to execute your game plan.
Yeah, and they're playing on the opposite sides of the map. Meanwhile, for the side of Team Hong Kong China, it looks like they want to go for that next objective, right? And this time, this breathing space that you actually give over to the side of Team Sri Lanka, this gives them a lot of breathing space. And once again, Kavindu gets instantly shut down. This is dangerous grass. Every single bush is dangerous, my friend.
Kavindu, not again. Unfortunately, this is kind of what Hong Kong China wants, right? Pull them out of their base, and unfortunately, that is discipline.
Now 4v5, there is great control coming out on Shen. Full barrage has been popped so far, unable to stop it, but KY Zheng focuses down on that turret. Light wheel has been popped. Shen eventually does go down, and this might be coming in for the side of Team Hong Kong China, and HL Long lands that snipe onto Ramanayake here. This might be the end for Team Sri Lanka. Only Nisal and Praveen left remaining. No full barrage left inside. No ability to clear out the creeps coming in from the middle side. Now Kavindu, he is back. And now the creep waves is handled. The Lord is Team Hong Kong China. Do they go for the throats here? Full barrage is available. It's not doing enough. It's not. They just need to run away from the range.
Oh no! Here we thought that it might be possible, but to be fair though, the Lord is now available. Then they can have a very prominent push that is upcoming to the upcoming base, because it is a barren wasteland already for the side of Team Sri Lanka. They are not that scared of the turrets anymore, because the main thing that is stopping any of the members, like for KK Chan or for MY Chung, to rush in and be a very annoying person to the backlines is really the turrets. But now that none of these turrets stands here anymore, the only thing that they need to look out for is Praveen's full barrage.
Yeah, so they need to watch out for that. They need to watch out for King's Calling. That's two things, right? You need to watch out for a circle and a triangle. So once you avoid those shapes, you're done. And now with the Lord coming in, now with the King Calling being set down, HL Law pops that Winter Crown. Full barrage is there on him. HL Law eventually goes down here, but Light Wheel at the side here. KY Zheng unable to finish onto the crystal, going greedy there. And Team Sri Lanka, they hold on. They weren't able to avoid the circle and the triangle. As CJ Wong, Hashen, he's taking them out for a walk here.
Yeah, I mean, Hashen won't go down. That guy is a little bit too tanky. And unfortunately, that was maybe Hong Kong China's best effort at trying to make up for a push. And now, they lost two members. Team Sri Lanka, they are finally out of their own shell, and that's great for them.
Yeah, that full barrage, right? That full barrage just softened down the entirety of that creep wave. And meanwhile, KY Zheng just took the full fury of the crystal. Now they do have one more defense left into them. And there is that split push coming in from CJ Wong that they need to consistently be worried about, right? You don't want a case of minions here, as the minions are now super from the side of Team Hong Kong China.
Now, Team Hong Kong China, the main thing that they gotta do is sacrifice. They need proper sacrifice. They need to force Praveen in a spot where he needs to make very difficult decisions, such as, do I full barrage now? Do I full barrage later? KK-chan literally had to run his space right onto Praveen at the exact and the right moment, so that the upcoming Lord and the upcoming push coming in from these creep waves would not be halted by a single ultimate. Otherwise, that is just way too much value out of a single full barrage.
Yeah, this is a dangerous grass after all. They can't go for that 3-on-3. That tri-lane push, especially with such a creep clear tool coming out from inside of Team Sri Lanka, they have found a way to hold on for now. But still, both sides, they don't have a clean engagement tool, right? That's why you don't see them jump in and brawling against each other. It's more like a wave going against a wave, and they're unable to latch onto each other because they're just liquid. And now Team Hashan, right now, going in Sri Lanka, they're going for that stick, but KK-chan just dragging him away. And now the Lord is up, and Hashan does able to get out with the split, and also the flicker coming through from the side of Team Sri Lanka. Now, there's 3 flickers being used from the side of Team Hong Kong China. They go for the Lord here, and this is going to be the enhanced one. The damage reduction is there. You want to stick to the Lord, but it's so counterintuitive because the full barrage is there.
Yeah, so same thing as always. Bait out the full barrage, find a way to make sure the full barrage does not stick. Now, it's a lot easier to be said than done. KY Zheng, where does he stand in this game? Where does he go in? When? Because it's going to be so difficult. The main thing that you want to do is you want to kill Hashan, right? However, the moment that he's attached to someone, you can't kill Hashan. You shouldn't, because you'll outright just like kill your own teammate instead.
Yeah, they need to hold that to that mid creep wave, get that mid prio going. But sadly for them, that mid creep wave gone down to the super creeps already. And Team Sri Lanka actually might have a staggered timing here for the creep waves if they want to full barrages. Now KY Zheng, he's in a slight bit of trouble, but takes down Hashan at this point. King's Calling might not be enough here as Ramanayake overextends and goes down. Full barrage being used, but the creep wave is not fully taken care of. They can actually go for the turn right now. There's still a catapult left remaining now with Hashan and Ramanayake out. Praveen has no full barrage remaining. They're holding on to their lives here. For the side of Team Sri Lanka, Team Hong Kong China, they all need to hit the crystal, and they do it. They get that 2-0 clean victory for the side of Team Hong Kong China.
Congratulations over to Hong Kong China, as this game between these two teams, this is a situation where none of these two teams, as you mentioned, right, it's not about a very initiation-heavy composition, nor a counter-engaged composition. This is all about overall execution. The moment that you get into a fight, the moment that you get into a battle, you need to capitalize on the opponent's mistakes. And that is exactly what Hong Kong China did. They actually, look, the defense coming in from Team Sri Lanka should have been very much fortified. They have a single full barrage. As long as Ixia is constantly just behind the core, there is hardly anyone that can just jump right in and get a kill down on Ixia or force the Ixia to go for full barrage. Unless, you know, the ball is going to be onto the court of Hong Kong China, they are the one that needs to make the play, not onto Sri Lanka. So the moment that Glue went a little bit too far out and he did not manage to latch on someone, that's game.
Yeah, I mean, Ramanayake as well, right? Unable to cut his losses, jumping in with the King's Calling. Well, you picked that Min Seathorn first, right? You were expecting great things out of the King's Calling. And yeah, there were times where they were able to shut down the Suyo because of that. But when it boils down to that 50-50 fight, KY Zheng, he had a grasp on it, right? Where he's able to deal the damage on the Harith in the first game, on the second game as well as the carry, as well as positioning really very good in terms of just trying to force out these objectives. Well, there's no catch available because both of these teams, they went for non-meta drafts. And this is
very non-meta.
This is why these drafts are not meta in the first place, right? Because the lack of catch is so obvious, right? When there isn't Cho, when there isn't Kalea, when there isn't a Paquito.
Like a clear win condition.
Yeah, there is very little weird win conditions. You're going up against 5-on-5 and 5-on-5 every single time, and that's why teams like to stick to the meta. And this is what happens when, well, you see a Hilda, you see Uranus, you see a Vexana.
Yeah, I think at least for Team Sri Lanka, the idea that they're trying to go for is to bank onto the hook coming from Ramanayake, right? And that is probably their entrance, their way of bringing someone from the side of Hong Kong, China onto them. But once that is done, what happens then? You probably will want to go for, at that point in time, King's Calling? King's Calling just so that the rest of the members from Hong Kong, China, they can't just run right in that easily with a simple dash or not. But Team Sri Lanka, I think that the main problem is they were too quick or too eager to make a play. They constantly have the idea, you know what? In order for us to defend well, we need to have we need to kill KY Zheng. We need to ensure that the carry goes down, so let's send the Minsita and the glue after her.
I think they had a bit of PTSD from that first game, right? From the first game where the Lord being inside their base caused them to lose. This time, however, they had that lineup where if the Lord is inside the base, they can stay inside the base. Because now they got the King's Calling, they got the full barrage. They could have played those AoEs extremely well. But in the last team fight, King's Calling was way out of line. It was trying to catch KY Zheng as much as possible. And Praveen, you saw the full barrage was being used on the Lord. And that's when the resources got divided for the side of Team Sri Lanka.
Indeed.
Yeah, so really, I gotta say, Team Hong Kong, China, it was a battle of perseverance, right? This was a game of who could last longer, and they eventually won the war of attrition.